Hello friends and welcome to another support spotlight. Today we're going to do a mini guide for Mirana, for support, roaming support, whatever you want to call it. She's very good right now. If you're going to pick Mirana, the playstyle you should have in mind is that your laning stage, usually pretty decent to strong. You're very annoying with a lot of right clicks. Your abilities can be a little unreliable though, so sometimes it's a little weird. No matter how your lane goes though, you're going to have a very high tempo, very active playstyle, lots of ganking, and that's what you're going to work towards. If you like that, great fit. After that, you can still be just a totally normal support, continue to use arrow, build items to be supportive, blah, blah, blah. But you also have the option to scale as a core because Mirana has been a core in the past, and so that exists for her kit. So if you need to do extra damage and you gotta buy stuff like that, you gotta carry from the support role, Mirana can do that. So I want you to have that in mind because that kind of explains all the abilities and items we're going to talk about. With that then in mind, Sacred Arrow, Leap, level 1, level 2, pretty much what you're going to do most games. Sacred Arrow has a ton of utility. You get damage, you get stun, and it instant kills creeps. So, first blood attempts, fire an arrow at the runes. Great. If you get to the landing stage, you can use it to guarantee range creeps, big camp creeps, get extra gold and XP from them to hit the levels a little faster. If you happen to hit a hero, that's probably going to kill them. Level 1, 3 seconds of stun. You know, both you and the offlaner hitting them, probably dead. So a lot of value there. Starstorm just brings in damage, but doesn't have any of that extra utility, so not really worth it level 1. Leap level 1, some of you might be tempted to take it if you, say, get caught unaware, they're ganking you. Oh, if I leap, I can get over the cliff and I'll survive. You can, but I would probably recommend you just die because Sacred Arrow is so good for the laning stage and everything you want to do that I'd rather have that first. If you survive, but then you have Leap level 1, what can you do? You can just right click, which you could do anyways with Sacred Arrow. You get a bit of extra attack speed, but it's like not that much. And so it feels very weird to have Leap level 1. I don't recommend it. But Leap level 2, great, because now you can do a lot more roaming, very deep into the enemy jungle, and it's very hard to catch you. At this point, very few people have boots, they don't have all their spells, they don't have all the lockdown, so as long as you can leap up or down a cliff, over trees, just extra move speed and the leap, so you can just run away from people, very hard to catch Mirana, and you become a lot safer to do very aggressive things. So level 1, level 2, pretty much non-negotiable. Something else non-negotiable really is the ult. You're pretty much going to take it whenever you get a chance. It gives you extra move speed and makes everyone invis, so it's a lot easier to gank. You can use it in team fights to run to the fights faster. Let's knock out the easy stuff first like this. You are eventually going to max Starstorm. Level 8 or level 7. That part is a bit up to you because even at the highest level, people do both. I myself am a huge fan of taking 2 points in Sacred Arrow before maxing Starstorm. The reason we're going to max Starstorm first eventually is that it does a good amount of damage and it does it in an AoE. So this is your flash farm, tower defense ability to get extra gold, be greedy as Mirana, and it adds a lot of extra damage in ganks, not just the 300 guaranteed damage, but 75% damage if you land that second hit. That is a ton. It's kind of what guarantees your ganks to work when you hit arrow and then you hit them with the double Starstorm. But moving back a little bit, at level 3, Starstorm costs 80 mana. It does 75 damage, up to 130 damage if you get that second hit. But it costs 80 mana. Sacred Arrow, no extra mana, 90 extra guaranteed damage, and 0.6 extra stun. So that's probably like 1 auto attack from you and your core, maybe the creeps. So extra damage there as well. So it's a lot more mana efficient to have 2 points in Sacred Arrow, and you can do pretty much the same thing you can as if you took Sacred Arrow and then Starstorm at level 3, but it's harder. Because let's say you have this skill build and you do a gank, you arrow someone, you leap to them, you Starstorm, and maybe you leap away. Very expensive mana-wise. You may have to run home at that point, or you're going to have to buy some extra mana regen. But if you have 2 points of Sacred Arrow, you Sacred Arrow, leap in, maybe leap away. You're saving 80 mana, probably doing just about the same amount of damage. If you hit Sacred Arrow, that's when you're going to commit it all, no matter what. So you either have an arrow, level 2 arrow that hit, or a level 1 arrow hit that hit, and then Starstorm. If you don't hit arrow, though, it doesn't matter whether it was level 1 or 2 because it didn't cost any extra. And you're not going to use Starstorm. That means if you have this like 1-1-1 build, Starstorm is just sitting there. And if you don't hit arrows, you're just not using Starstorm. So I find it very awkward. I don't like it. I like the 2 points in Sacred Arrow. Then by level 4, you start getting Starstorm, and you have more mana at that point. Maybe you finished an early item, you have the clarities, the water runes, whatever. I think there's a little more room to work with at that point. So I like this build a lot. After that, then I max Sacred Arrow. You have a little bit of a choice here, whether you max Arrow and then take the talent, and I'm going to recommend this right talent, this -2 second Sacred Arrow. I personally like taking the talent at level 10 because I think at this stage of the game, 4.4 seconds of stun versus 5 seconds of stun, not a huge difference. And so I'd rather just have Arrow sooner so I can use it to farm creeps and then gank, things like that. So when I level it up, I only get 1 stun, 1 second off, whereas this talent gets 2 seconds off. So I like the talent, but perfectly viable to say you want more damage and stun and max it and then take the talent. I don't think it's a huge deal either way. After that, you'll eventually max leap, and that's fine. For your talents, I pretty much just recommend the right talents. Level 10 we already talked about. Level 15 and 20 make your ult a little bit more team utility, adding that evasion in. You can just use it in fights at a lower cooldown, and then everyone's just getting extra move speed, they're invis, and they have evasion. That's just very useful. So if you're not using it for ganks, you can just use it in fights. I like that. Multi-shot, by level 25, it's very late in the game. You just need to hit an arrow, and that could be the game. Someone could be dead for 100 seconds, 130 if that was their buyback, and that could just be it. Maybe it's not, but it could be. And so the more arrows you have, the better chance you have at just randomly hitting someone and possibly winning the game off of that, coming back into the game, whatever. I just think there's a lot of value here. They also give vision too, so it's a little extra scouting. I think that's cool. The left talent is mostly damage. That's more core Mirana. And if you're going for like a right-click build, which we'll talk about a little bit in items, then you might want the attack speed, the mana break. But I would probably still take the right talents for 10 and 25. So if you have like the right-click items, you might do something like this. But I think this is a lot better, a lot safer for support Mirana. So then for itemization, it can be a little difficult because Mirana actually has a lot of options. You have pretty much everything you need from your abilities, your flash farming damage, your gank stun, your mobility, your like team utility. So item-wise, you just build whatever your team needs, which could be to further enhance one of your own abilities, but it could be something else like auras or something. Mirana can do it because while she's building an aura item, she's still contributing everything she needs to with her like invis, arrow ganks, things like that. So that can make it a little tough to know what to build. Let's talk through it. First of all, kind of no matter what you're building, Urn is a very safe item for Mirana. Going back to that playstyle we talked about, very active. Wants to be involved in all these kills and ganks. Urn is great for that. It gives her the mana she needs to keep using Arrow, Leap, Starstorm. It also has these charges. So after a fight, she can heal herself up or her allies. Or in the middle of the gank, she can use it for extra damage, cancel blinks on enemies, and that can be very nice. So you will frequently see Urn first with no other items. With that in mind, let's actually now step back to the starting items. People will build components of the Urn to speed it up. So tangos, very common. Everyone builds tangos. Circlet, extra damage from her other items because she's going to right-click a lot to be very annoying in the laning stage. Maybe you need a sentry. If you need a stick, you can cut something out here to get the stick. But if you don't know what else you need, you might buy the Sage's Mask or the Ring of Protection, because these will build into the Urn so you can pick it up faster and start that kind of extra value from your ganks as quickly as you can. Sage's Mask, if you know you're going to use arrows a lot, not do as much right-clicking, or Ring of Protection, if they have some right-click as well, and you need that extra edge to win those trades, either one of these could be a fine start, or you could just build like more Iron Branches, more regen, and then work to the Urn eventually. And something that might help you make that choice is how likely are you to get kills? If you have a very bad offlane matchup that is not likely to get kills, then the Urn is not a lot of value. You need the charges to really make a fast Urn work. So depending how likely you think you might get kills can let you decide what early items to build. After you get the urn, which will probably be your first item, you can then get brown boots, build arcanes or tranquils if you want. Also fine to leave it at brown boots, just to help you roam more. Is really what all your boot options are for. Wand, because you're involved in so many ganks and little skirmishes, spells are being cast everywhere. You're gonna get a lot of charges, so that can be very good for you. The stats will help you survive, do a little extra damage, all of that. You can potentially skip boots and wand if you need a spirit vessel as quickly as possible. Spirit Vessel's nice because it has pretty much all the same stats as Urn, gives you extra health, which as an agility hero, you have plenty of armor, but very little health. So that tanks you up to leap into the fray and use all your abilities and not be killed right away. But then you get this extra damage when you use it on the enemy, the current health damage and the healing reduction. Now you might be wondering, why don't other roaming supports do this? Why don't they all rush Spirit Vessel? It's because Mirana does not need other things, and she farms fast so she can get it fast, compared to, say, a Tusk or Earth Spirit. When they build and level up their ganking abilities, those are not great at farming. Mirana ganks with level 1 or level 2 arrow. It also lets her farm big camp creeps to get extra gold faster. She then gets Starstorm for the extra damage in the ganks, which can also be used to flash farm creep waves and small camps, things like that. So her ganking aligns with getting a lot of extra gold, which allows the Spirit Vessel to come online even faster. Because Arrow is such a long range ability as well, and because she has Leap, she doesn't have to get boots or any other items. She just has like a couple clarities to stay topped up on mana, and she just fires her arrow. That's her contribution in ganks. She can do her job while getting to a Spirit Vessel very quickly to have a lot of impact with it before dispels and BKBs and extra levels that give like immunities and dispels. All those aren't online yet because Mirana gets this so fast. Other fours just don't farm as quickly and they cannot get the Spirit Vessel as fast. You don't have to get it that fast. You can get the urn, you can get the other small items, and then eventually get the Spirit Vessel, or just not at all. It's not even a required item, but it does fit her playstyle very well. So if you're not sure what to get, or you know you need a Spirit Vessel, great first item. After that, or potentially instead of that, Euls is also really good. You Eul someone, you step back a little, you fire an arrow. As long as the arrow is in their hitbox as they drop, very difficult to dodge. BKB can dodge it, and a couple other abilities have priority, but most things don't. Most of the time, it will be an instant stunned. They won't be able to use Manta, something like that, any of their abilities that have cast points. So this is the way you guarantee a stun if your team has no follow-up. So you have a Sand King, blink stun. The enemy has Ember Spirit. You don't really need this because he will blink stun the Ember Spirit, then you fire the arrow. No Sand King, and you just have to arrow an Ember Spirit. That is so hard to do. So you buy the Euls and make it a lot easier. You leap in, Euls the guy, he doesn't have time to react. Arrow right underneath, he doesn't have time to remnant or anything away. Instant stun, hopefully your teammates then follow up and get the kill. So that's pretty much why you buy Euls, but it also makes you harder to kill because you now have a self-dispel, and that along with your 3 leaps and invis make it very hard to kill you. It also provides all the mana you need to keep launching arrows and all your spells to do your job. Blink can be good if your team has no natural initiation. This is the item to do it all on your own. You will blink in, Eul someone, arrow them. You are the entire initiation on your own. You can, sometimes it's your job, like when you're against the Void Spirits, the Faceless Void, Storm Spirits, Embers, Pucks, Anti-Mages, these very hard to catch heroes, and you have no stuns on your team somehow, you have to itemize towards it. And so this is what you do. Even if they don't have like the most mobile heroes, this might still be what you need to do, where you just start the fights and your team's followed up. So these 3 items are a very safe bet, in my opinion. After these items, or completely instead of these items, again, very flexible item build, any of these are also fine. So like, oh, my team needs 4 staffs. You don't usually need a 4 staff because you have leap, but you might need it for your allies. Then 4 staff's good. Drums so that you land an arrow, you drums everyone, you ult, everyone's speeding in to kill that guy with the arrow who's been stunned. Maybe you need a solar crest. Put it on the guy who's been arrowed. He's going to die extra fast. Maybe your team needs the auras, Guardian Greaves, Boots of Bearing. Those are also good. It's a little weird because usually you're far back in the fight using arrow, but then you leap in, you Starstorm, so you're usually close enough to get value out of the Guardian Greaves or Boots of Bearing. Lotus Orb to protect teammates. BKB if you're really involved in these fights, doing a good amount of damage, can't die. Ags, you can grief with this by just farming, but there's actually good utility from the Ags. It does do a bunch of damage and a bunch of like AoE extra damage as well if your team is lacking damage, so that's cool. But it's also a great scouting tool because it doesn't work through invis and dust or smoke of deceit. But if you arrow and the arrow doesn't see them, and because they're in fog of war, but you have the aghanims, it will still launch the extra Starstorm at them. And so you can just fire this into up a cliff that you don't know, and then it'll doot, 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 3 heroes here, that arrow pass nearby. So it's a fantastic scouting tool if your team needs that. So it's not total grief. It can be legitimate. You can buy it. I wouldn't really first rush in Ags. I'd probably buy something else first. But say after the Spirit Vessel or a Euls, you could get this Ags. Like, I don't need Blink. That's fine. Buy your Ags. That's now your scouting tool. You fire the arrow. Maybe you hit someone. Maybe you don't. But you reveal someone. Then a teammate can initiate on that target that you've now revealed. So perfectly legitimate. Last thing I want to talk about here actually is Atos. This is a very common question about building Atos instead of Euls. I think Euls has a lot more utility for yourself, provides you the stats you need, the mana regen mainly, and it's a guaranteed stun in most cases. Atos is not. It has higher potential where you Atos someone far away and get a max range stun. Euls, you rarely get max range stun just because of the amount of time you have to Euls back up, fire the arrow. You don't get the max range, but what you get is good enough for a guaranteed stun typically. Atos, we're building Euls or Atos because we need help stunning people. That tends to be the Queen of Pains, the Embers, the Void Spirits, all of those. All of those people can easily dodge a Rod of Atos, which means the Rod of Atos doesn't serve its purpose. If you're buying it to catch slow heroes, the Euls is kind of good enough for that, and it fits better with what you need. Plus, you can then use it, and they can't really Manta or Dispel themselves or something like that. Rod of Atos, they get rotted, they see the arrow coming, they Manta, they walk away. So, like, it will drop off as the enemies get more items, but Euls does not. They don't get to Manta an arrow that is already in their hitbox when they fall down. So Euls has a lot more value and fits what you need, typically a lot better than this Rod of Atos. So I will recommend Euls until you really know what you're doing, and then maybe the Rod of Atos may have some extra value in the right games, but I myself am a big fan of Euls. And that is it. Hopefully that has given you enough information to get started with Mirana. Like I said, she's a very flexible hero, so you have to play her a decent amount to know exactly what is best in every single game, but this should have provided you a decent framework to get started and give her a shot if you haven't played her before. Thank you for watching again, and I'll see you in the next video.